Hello and welcome to another Tier List Tuesday, where today we're going to go into the realm of music and start off with the Beatles studio albums. And chronologically, we're going to go Please Please Me. I think I'm going to put that smack bang in the middle at B. I do think there's a lot of Beatles albums that are better than it, but it's a very good start for the tier list. Then next was With the Beatles. I'm gonna put that in the bottom tier. Bar one album, that's probably my least favourite Beatles album. I kind of think that they probably just rushed out another album and didn't really think about it too much. There's some really good stuff on it, it's just that it doesn't pale in comparison to their original Please Please Me album. And then next, I think it was Hard Day's Night. I'm going to put that in the middle. I think with them trying to do the film and having to do some film soundtrack at the same time, I think that there was a jump in quality. The whole vibe of the album's a bit different. It actually feels like it's a comprehensive album at the start of it, anyway. And then I think next was Beatles for Sale. And I'm going to put that ahead of With the Beatles, but still in the bottom tier. I do think this was probably their album that they're probably the most tired in. You can kind of tell that some of the songs were a bit lazy. I know this was George Harrison's first album where he had a go at writing a song, but yeah. Next was, I believe, Help. And I think I'm going to put that above Please Please Me in the third tier. Help, quite a good little album, to be fair. Some of the songs on it are actually quite nice. Yesterday, Help, pretty good album, really. But yeah, going forward, there is a few that's better than it again. Then I believe the first of their concept albums where they actually had like an idea of what they're doing before they started was Rubber Soul, and it's probably the start of their like comprehensive list of their LPs where they actually was trying to create a general sound within the album, and it actually sounds like a brilliant comprehensive album instead of it just being pop songs that are just thrown onto an album with a couple of loose songs in between. Next was Rubber Soul, and this is a lot of people's favourite, but with me, I've got it's my third best favourite it's my third favourite Beatles album, really. Quite a few good songs on there, but I just prefer two more above it. But I still do like it. Then the next was whatever. Yellow Submarine, I'm putting it last. Yellow Submarine, half the album isn't the Beatles, it's George Martin. Although the music is okay, and it was for the film, the only noticeable song is Yellow Submarine, and it's already on Revolver anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. I'm gonna go with Sergeant Pepper and put it in the middle of Rubber Soul and Revolver. I do really enjoy this album. I know it gets a bit of I think it looked down upon nowadays because of like its reputation, but I still think it sounds brilliant, to be fair. It's got the whole like 60s aesthetic completely down to a T. Bit of psychedelics, bit of like brilliant music in between. Absolutely brilliant album. Next is Magical Mystery Tour. I'm going to put behind Sergeant Pepper's. I know it's an EP, an English EP that was elongated with a few singles, and it's an American Capitol album instead of it being Parlogram or Apple. I know it's Capitol, but even though it's kind of a compilation album, I do quite enjoy listening to it side to side. In fact, if it was like, if it was a bit more cohesive and actually like flowed into each other a bit better, which I think they probably could have done. I think that's probably one of the best albums they ever did. But I think the music doesn't really work too well with each other. There is quite a bit of a crossover in terms of sound between the songs, so that's probably what's putting it down below my top two: Revolver, Sgt. Pepper's, and I think it's a bit better than Rubber Soul because the music's better. Next is the White Album, and I'm gonna put it in S tier because I know there's quite a lot of songs on there that I don't particularly like in a vacuum. I don't really have them on my not like my Spotify playlist or anything like that. But as a general vibe for a 30-song album, I know Revolution Number 9's pretty awful to listen to, but I still think that it's a comprehensive look into what the Beatles can do as a band. I know it's quite cliched, but like, this is probably the album that you could show to somebody and go, this is what the Beatles is. Like, just a comprehensive look at like George Harrison. You've got like you got John Lennon's cynicism. You got Paul McCartney's upbeat tempo music, like Obla Di, Obla Da, and then you got some of Ringo's best stuff on the White Album, I think. And then chronologically, what they wrote next was Let It Be, from the documentary. I'm going to put it in that middle tier because I think it's a return to their albums from before they started like dying down the concerts and stuff. I think it's a return to that sort of form where there's quite a few songs on there where you can there's quite a few singles on there that are quite nice, but the rest of the album is just kind of filler for me. I know it's their last stuff that they did as a group, like as in terms of LP release, but I'd kind of think that it's a bit meh in terms of like what they'd just done before in the last 2 or 3 years. And then the last album on the list, also my favourite, Abbey Road. I genuinely think that if I didn't know that this was released in '69, and you had to ask me when it was released, I would have said 79 or like 75 or something like that, because it still sounds like beyond its time. It's George Harrison experimenting with a Moog synthesizer that went on to influence disco. It's got some rockabilly songs from the 50s. It's got a 60s aesthetic to it that doesn't actually drag it down to knowing that it's from the 60s. The whole medley at the end, what you can currently listen to in 8-bit format, so you can actually hear a bit. The whole medley at the end is like, it's like a perfect tour de force in terms of what they could do at that time as musicians. And the medley has got like a, it's like them showing off what they was as a band in a small 15-minute like little crescendo to their career. And Abbey Road is my favourite Beatles album. And with that, thank you so much for watching this episode of Tier List Tuesdays. Please like, please subscribe, and goodbye.